prayer of a workhorse. O body, do not corner me. Do not grind me into paycheck. Give me a moment of you, body, a morsel, laugh, eye contact, a moment past a season in the sun. In the winter, let me rest, reposo. Give me some time to poet, some time to scribble moon times 100 blue mark blackout page stages. I teach in a brick box. I am metal, an insurance horse. Don't even have my own dentist / space / shovel. When I finally die / cry / dream, someone will have to find me a substitute. They will be the only one who thinks of me in the fall. Where did he put all those things? And I will have to put myself together outside the urn, go back to work, show them where I put those things, then ask them if they need help. I carry around a dead voice vase full of wind. Wander without me, body. Let me sleep, sleep, sleep in. For the next few days, pen a particular pillar, mirror it. Wordsmith the shit wick out long words, out of short words. A short work week, maybe that is what is needed. I cannot depend on you to hear me. You are too much already. You so caught up in you, you only listen for the word you. Funny, I did write them with you in mind. I am originally from Galveston, Texas. Grew up there till about 18, and then left to Houston to pursue a degree. I attended the University of St. Thomas for the next 5.5 years. Got a degree in bilingual education. Double minored in English and philosophy. Hence 5.5 years. After all the debt, I became a teacher and then never moved out of Houston. Interestingly, so my mother and father are also not from Galveston. I was born and raised there, but I spent equal amounts of time outside of the island. My mother is Southern Tejana, so she grew up in the Rio Grande Valley. The spaces that are San Benito and Westco and Brownsville, Edinburgh, all of those are like a backyard, yeah. And so I spent lots of time there. I also, because of my father, have this other layer of understanding in the world because his roots, the other half of my roots, are Jalisciense, a great state of Jalisco. So the area just outside of Guadalajara, El Ejido de San Juan del Valle. So Atotonilco, the ranchos of La Pareja, y Los Cuates, all the valleys, the Sierra Madre Occidental, all of that knowledge was also a part of my upbringing. I am blessed to say that though we were considered quote unquote poor in the U.S., I had the ocean in front and cerros to my back and the lush greenery of that, but then the horizons that are the beaches, like that. I always had boots and flip-flops, like equally with my shoes, and so all of that is part of that upbringing.
Right, and you studied here in Texas as well. You went to UTEP.
Yes, so I'm the first in the U.S. born set of cousins. Born stateside, the first to attend college, the first to graduate from college, and the first to get a master's.
Okay.
So my grandfather being a bracero, within a generation, like there's only 2 of us in the whole family. We are, I think, 35 grandkids. Only 2 of us have a master's degree. 1 in Mexico from the University of Guadalajara, and then me out of the University of Texas out of Paso. I didn't know anything about an undergraduate degree. First generation things and traumas and understandings, and so getting a master's wasn't even, I was like, I got an undergrad, I'm done. I just go to work and that's it. And it wasn't until later, and having lots of conversations with other writers, whom some had MFAs, some didn't. In conversation with folks with MFAs, it was like, what's an MFA? What are you talking about? You can get a degree in writing. What? And do what with it? You can teach with it. Or you can go do X, Y, and Z. Okay. And I was like, I think by the time I was 27, that's when I was like, oh, people get MFAs. It never registered, Lupe, you could go get it. Like it never didn't, nope, not until my mid-30s did I was like, I think it's time to go get a thing.
Okay.
And so I graduated with my undergrad degree in bilingual ed to teach in December of 2000. I applied and got in to UTEP, started in the winter of 2012. And it went from composition notebooks and attending classes to being on a blackboard and doing courses online. And I was scared shitless. Like I literally was like, wait, what? The shell for the course, my first class at UTEP, when I logged into all my stuff, was Guillermo Mendez. And I was like, who's Guillermo? And I looked at it and like it had his schedule, and he was an undergrad getting a BFA, and it had like philosophy and English and like math and history to 1835. And I was like, what? This is an oh my God, today's the first day of class. What do I? So I emailed my professor. I was like, Dr. De Pediola, I'm going to have to drop your class. I'm like a day behind. Your syllabus says you're already 3 assignments in. This is a bad idea. I'll just pick this up in the fall. I'm just going to drop your class. And he emails me and he's like, no. What's wrong? What happened? I was like, I don't know. I have this kid's account. They messed up mine. It'll take them a week to fix it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. He's like, don't worry. I'll email you the syllabus. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about the shell. Don't worry about the shell. So I was like, okay. So if it had not been for his, hey, we'll work with you, I'd have chickened out. I'd have quickly chickened out.
But did you like the program? I've heard you speak really highly of it.
Love UTEP's online MFA program. It is designed for professionals in mind. The level of craft in which everyone is working in aesthetically were so different and diverse because of the nature of the online program. Anybody from anywhere takes the course. In the 3 years that I was in the program, 1 person from Ireland, 2 people from the UK, 3 people from Colombia, 1 person across the border in Juarez. People who were really busy working who lived in El Paso, a home dude in Austin, another cat that's here, Hugo Rodriguez, was here in Houston with me in the program, but we all had day jobs. Hell, we even had one guy who was at war in Afghanistan and took some of his coursework while on furlough. And so the diversity and the layer of language and writing that we were a part of in community was exactly that. It was in community. We weren't, not that there's a bad thing of the echo chamber that can become a residency program. But with this being an online set of courses, and you're not in a cohort, the flexibility of what you will hear and who you're working with changes semester to semester. And to me, that was exciting. And it is the program in which lots of other universities shifted their eye towards when the pandemic hit. UTEP was one of, I think, 2 schools in the country that didn't do nothing different. They were like, oh, a pandemic residency program? Here's the manual, go. And I was like, that's dope. Like, this is the shift and the move. Online coursework isn't disappearing. And I believe UTEP leads the way that way.
So would you say then that obtaining your MFA has been helpful to you then?
The investment in the work and the investment in the school has pays out all the time in the work I do.
You think you could give us like a little sneak peek into your writing process?
It's cyclical.
Okay.
It's not like the seasons or anything, but it's more, there is a moment in which you, at least for me, you are listening and you are watching or you are attending, right? My background in the arts is theater. I did theater in high school. I did theater. I did tech work in my undergrad. When I graduated from college, I did theater work here in the city. So going to live performances, being on a stage, attending open mics, that was my first foray into the poetry scene here in Houston. And so for me, part of the craft is attending readings, like seeing who else. It's not just enough to read. It's also that you need to see and be about this other level of the work. Marcel Murphy, who's a poet here in Houston, I always quote him by saying, Marcel would say this all the time to everybody, read more than you write more than you perform, and then you can begin. And that has always stuck with me. So you are at moments writing, you are at moments performing, you are at moments editing, you are at moments going through and recreating things, you are organizing. Like all of those things I think are levels at which in one form or fashion we're all creating. So for me, I get to a certain point where like, okay, I think I'm done producing more work. And then when I get to a certain point where I think I'm done there, I'll go back and edit. And then when I'm done with that, I think I'll decide to go see live shows. It helps feed what I'm working towards. It helps me gauge language. Like what do I hear my contemporaries doing? What are people doing? Who are they reading? Let me talk to you about who are you reading? What have you read? What have you watched? What are you listening to? Like all of those, for me, bring such a level of life and joy to the process. Because I've also seen the other writers who don't do any of that. And they're like, I'm writing. And then they're quiet in a hole. And they don't bathe or whatever. But like that level of like, I can't do that. That's not, what? No.
So what are you reading?
I should be reading. I have not had a chance to read. I need to. I've been reading for research for the book. So Brown Not White by Dr. Guadalupe San Miguel, who's a professor at U of H. His book came out in 2005, and so that's the book I'm using to kind of give me context and background for my current book project, which is the history on the Houston Huelga schools here in the city.
Nonfiction, correct?
Nonfiction.
We had the honor of publishing some of your nonfiction descriptions.
Yes. And thank y'all for that. But so that's the big chunk of work that I've been able to do and read with, and so yeah.
So would you say, I mean, because you've got some big pubs in your bio there: Kenyon Review, Gulf Coast, Texas Review, Poetry Mag. course, defunct.
Right.
You know, so far up there. Is it daunting to you still to submit work? Or, I mean, do you have butterflies over rejection? Or is that old news? Like,
So I say this to other writers all the time. If you are crushed by a writing rejection, go do theater. There is nothing more
crushing.
gut punching, crushing, body slicing as a theater rejection, because it is on the spot to your face about the dents in your head, or you're 5'3", we need someone 5'5" next. Like, those kind of rejections, those hurt. Book rejection, I ain't worried about no book. You finally told me no. Good. I have more things to work on. I need, like, submit and go, submit and go, submit and go, and be done. Like, that level of craft. And yes, the number, like, well, why am I always getting rejected? Well, maybe that's not the moment. Like, things line up the way they line up. And sometimes you can inquire with certain mags to find out. You can inquire with anthologies. You can inquire with certain spaces to find out, what's happening with your submissions. So Defunkt accepted a nonfiction piece. Asterix Journal selected another one of my pieces. In that time, Black Warrior Review said no. Cutthroat said no. Who else?
Cutthroat really is cutthroat, aren't they?
Who else? Like 3 or 4 other. Like, I had like 6 rejections. So 2 out of 6, and I'm still in the game. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm like, whatever. And then it's the other side of the coin. It's like, oh, you've gotten a bunch of rejections. Texas Poet Laureate for 2022. Like, I'm like, what world? I get it, and I don't get it. So you go with the moment. Like, you go with the wins. You celebrate the wins, and you move on from the not wins.
All right, so
Yeah.
20 years, veteran performance poet,
Right.
stacks of awards, drops his first book, and is almost immediately award-winning author. So talk to me just a little bit about Why I'm Like Tequila and how it came about.
Why I Am Like Tequila came about as I should have wrote this shit sooner. But I just didn't have time. Like, it took me that long to finally be able to say, I think I have enough for a collection. Some of the poems in the manuscript date back to my earliest paid performances. So, like, stuff I performed in public. 2 or 3 of those poems made it into the book. It's the best voice I could put out there to talk about all the things that were me, are me, me I hope to be level, right? I played with home that's Galveston, home that's the Valley, home that's Mexico, home that's my parents, home that's my schools, home that's my writing. But then also looking at the distinction, and because of the aesthetics of tongue-in-cheek ideas about tequila, right? Like, I stopped looking at just the commercialized, capitalized drink and looked at the process, right? So you take a maguey, you put it in the ground, it takes 7 years for the root to grow the size of this room. And at the 7-year mark, you dig it out and you shave off all the pencas until you're left with a ball. And then you take the ball and you cut it up into sections and you boil it. And then all of that is then fermented. And then you get this refined drink out of it, right? And I thought about the 7-year process in terms of the the way the body works. The human body recreates itself. Every cell in the body has remade itself in the totality of 7 years. So when you're 7 and you're 14 and you're 21 and you're 28, like you're a whole new body, technically. And in some of those moments, you're your best you. And some of those moments, you're your worst you. But you still you, right? So I think in terms of, that's like, common understanding should be the highs and the lows and blah, blah, trash. You were always your best you, period. I think in terms of the way that you put pressure and boiling and fire to the roots of a maguey to make it into what will be tequila, which is a refined thing, we are always working towards being refined. The pressures and the boils and the things that life puts forth lead us to those moments. And I think, yeah, like every few years, you look clean. And all those other years where you aren't, those are building moments. Those are building blocks to like, until you come out on top again. And everything ebbs and flows. And so I think that's where I thought of the idea of like how we are all like tequila. And when you're at that high point, drink that whole damn bottle. Like, it's all right.
So
and
when you got that box of books.
That, right? When I got the box of books, I was like, this is brilliance.
Did you drink some tequila?
I did. I had like 2 shots, and then 5 minutes later, I was like, oh my God. I have acid reflux. I need Tums. And then I went home, and I told my parents, and I was like, I got a book. And my mom was like, give me 6 copies para mandarle a tus tías. And then my dad's like, a ver, deme verlo. Tequila. What do you know about tequila? I'm like, really, Dad? And then he was like, a ver, ¿cuánto te pagaron? I was like, they didn't pay me. ¿Tú pagaste para que te hicieran esta cagada? I was like, first of all, my book is not caca. Second of all, I didn't pay to get this book. Just give me the book back. And that was, you know, humbly, that's, I think every Latino, quote unquote, writer, Latinx writer, Latin writer has that moment. First generation Latino writer has that moment where they show off what this is. And for lack of you know, the not knowledge of what it takes to put that together, you know, with weary eyes, our parental units are very cautious because they've seen their own dreams dashed. And so they don't know what to make of what this other world is. You know, the bittersweet moment of, yes, my book was published, was then also followed by the fact that my parents have never seen me perform poetry. And my mother recently passed away, and so my mother's never seen me read a poem out loud.
That's just mind-boggling.
And it's like, it's this singular thing of, I know my worth as a writer, and it won't matter, because at the end of the day, I am still somebody's son. Mm-hmm. And that will always forever ring in my head. I'm not going to get too full of myself, because I can be Texas Poet Laureate, but my dad can't read. So what the hell does it matter? Like, it's that level of like, I can give my dad the press release, and I can translate the shit in Spanish, and I can explain to him what the thing is, and he'll just look at me and say, "Oh, pues está bueno." And that's about it. But that's it, and I'm okay with that, because I'll figure it out, and that's that level of what nobody else will talk about in other, like, it is a privilege and a pleasure and an honor to do these things. And I know, first and foremost, it is also a luxury and a survival skill, ability. And I'm okay with those concepts.
So we've talked a great deal about family, so I'm going to talk about family.
Yeah.
You are a great family man. It's
Right.
all over your social media. We also talk kid talk all the time.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about how you managed the work life, the career, the writing career, and this amazing family life?
So I am currently at 250 pounds in a 5'5" frame, which I think is 5'4", but we're gonna say 5'5".
5'5".
I physically am handling it like trash. I could probably do better, and I'm working towards that. But it's hard. At least for me, it's so difficult. Trying to maintain a writing life on some kind of a schedule with a wife who suffers from autoimmune ailments and a toddler is not for the faint of heart. It is difficult to find a moment to sit. And so even if I have 20 minutes, that's the 20 minutes, and that's going to be great. So I don't waste. When I do have the moments to do the work, I will use them. That also says I do not feel guilty if I just sat on the couch for 3 hours and just vegged out, because my day as an educator and as a husband and as a father, I'm going to give myself that break, because why the hell not? I can't process. And also I'm 44. I can't process like I used to. I wish I could. I can stare at the screen and read this amazing story, and then 5 minutes later, I'm like, what the fuck did I just read? What? I'm tired. I'm going to bed. 11:30, and I'm like, what? Who's doing what? Dishes? No, whatever. And so I try to find a balance. Some days it's awesome. Some days it's not. I'm grateful now that my kid's a little older. We are potty training. And so I'm at the point now where I can get her to bed by 9.
We're saving this for prom.
Yeah. I can get her to bed by 9. And my goal now is, if she will fall asleep by 9:10, I can change real fast and go to the gym. Be home by 10. She'll still be passed out. I can then go back to what I was doing with my writing from 10 to midnight or 1. And that feels like I can do something with. But currently, if I get an hour, cool. If I get an hour and a half, great. While we were sleep training, she would wake up in the middle of the night. One time she woke up in the middle of the night, ran into the room. I was writing a poem on paper. She had a bowl of half-eaten cereal, and she knocked over the bowl of half-eaten cereal to give me a hug. And she got milk all in the notebook. So those pages are sealed with Fruit Loops. And I'm not gonna freak over it, because this is the thing, right? It's a balance.
But that's not all you do. I'm
No.
just thinking to myself.
Right,
'cause
no,
you're-
it's all the other,
You're also a huge advocate for emerging writers.
right.
Lipo Traficante movement, that's on you.
Right.
Tintero projects, I mean, you've done tons of helping Defunkt to establish itself in the last 2 years. I mean, I've just seen you help so many organizations and individuals. And I'm like, I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, what draws you to that work and to these great links?
Honestly, I grew into the Houston writing scene having felt like the outsider. The connections that I built within the open mic scene were because we were like-minded writers who stopped giving a shit about the cliches, the cliques, and what people thought. And you had your literary spaces that were really white. First Fridays, UH readings were really white and exclusionary. And you also had the other flip of the coin. You had your slam spaces, which also were exclusionary to a degree. And so it was the open mic spaces that were grungy as shit. And you did them. You went. And you started seeing the same faces over and over and over. And we started building our own connections. And we didn't have much to go on. There was no formal movement. We didn't know anything about applying for grants. If we put together a chat book, it was our own dimes at the library, printing our own shit. We went to Office Max, bought an extended stapler, did it, or went to Kinko's and printed them. And you're
DIY
like,
mags, those are the best.
like, or going to copy.com and doing them at like midnight, like just craziness, right? And you're like, oh yeah, I spent like putting my paycheck on it. Like, we didn't know shit about what we were doing. Stephen Gross and a few of them were putting together Panhandle Publishing, and we're putting together Panhandler Magazine, and they were the first times that some of us were published. But it was all groundwork. Like, Stephen and them are spending half their paychecks putting this damn newspaper together. So I don't want for younger writers to have to go far or feel that they're not being seen outside of the spaces where they're reading. I want them to know earlier moments of success because A, they're worth it, B, the talent's there, C, why the hell not? Like, I didn't get it. That doesn't mean you're gonna have to go through your own blah 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 to get. What? No. I have been able to figure out like who are the contacts and how to build, and if I can figure out a way to do a reading at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, why am I gonna hold that for myself? Like, what the hell am I gonna do with that all the time? Might as well open it up so that they can see other people. And if they somehow ended up with another reading that had nothing to do with me, oh my God, amazing, do that. Hopefully they'll see what's been done and we'll do that for someone else. It's all the hope, right? It's all the dream. That's what I would hope for.
That's not a surprising answer.
Right? Surprise. I want for community to build up. I want to see everybody succeed because I see how hard people work. And so I think that's where some of that comes from.
You know, Lupe, I feel pretty confident speaking for the Houston literary community, especially the literary community, BIPOC community. We were ecstatic to read your name as the posted 2022 Texas Laureate. I don't know anyone that didn't share it. Like, all of our personal friends definitely reshared, and we're really excited that such a prestigious title is going to go to someone that was not only very diverse, like deserving of it, but is actually someone that is beloved and loved and is a native Texas person and is a Latino. It brings immense joy to my heart. So congratulations.
Thank you.
But what does the title mean to you?
I now have license to be able to say whatever the hell I want in ways that I didn't get to before. I also now get to talk shit about all Texas politicians because they didn't know what the hell they did when they voted for me, or when they voted for the referendum. No, for the bill referendum. However they decided this, they didn't know what the hell they got into because I'm not. I have said this before that if I ever got a status like this, I will do what Amiri Baraka did. He did not squelch or quiet his voice and was told by Chicago, hey, shift your tone, play nice, or we'll remove you from the position. And he happily did not. And they took the title away, and he said, well, then it wasn't worth it. I can't say what I need to say, then that's on y'all. So what are they going to do? Take it away? I'm not getting paid. I don't have to do anything with it. What are they going to do? Thank you. And so,
the extra PR.
Right. It's like, it's the extra PR. Like, I will now use this platform to highlight more of the things that I was already doing, but now on both a state and a national level. Texas might be in the news for some crazy nonsense. Hopefully, I can, along with Cyrus Cassels, we can put Texas on the map and have people communicate about the state in positive ways. And that's my hope. All the platform building that I've been doing with the city, I get to now build for the state. And at the same time, not quietly, I want to find a way to use the position to bring some notice to Galveston. I don't know how I'm going to do that just yet. I don't even know if the island wants it, but they're going to get it.
We can teach them to want it.
That stuff. But so yeah, that's what that means. I think that's what it means right now.
So what's next?
I am currently working on my second collection. I'm looking at the history of, I mentioned before, the Houston Huelga schools. August 31st of 1970, the Houston Independent School District, who I now work for, and have worked for, in my 20-year career as an educator, I've worked 13 plus years for HISD. The HISD of that era had drug its feet in producing an equitable desegregation plan. 1970. Deseg should have already been
Well taken care of.
well on its way. Houston drug its feet. It's a good old boys club back then. They created a desegregation plan, which they would diabolically pair. They did the most basic they could. They would pair a set of quote unquote black schools with a set of quote unquote white schools. All the white schools selected were really all Mexican schools. Because Mexicans at the time were labeled white, there was no
Pre-Nixon.
there was no labeling for Hispanic, right? It's problematic because for lots of Mexican populations, it gave them the curtain to hide behind, because they could go around and be white. For those that could. For those that couldn't, though, there was still racism in front of their face, and some people just found ways to ignore it and stay in their own little pockets. But it bit everybody in the ass in the fall of 70, when the district chose the schools that they would pair. They would bus the kids. Some black kids would go to the Mexican schools. Some Mexican kids would go to the black schools. And the schools that they were assigned to weren't within neighborhoods. So you had kids all over the city in their areas, pocketed to different spots. You had brothers and sisters who were supposed to attend the same school no longer attending the same school because they could have been selected to be a part of desegregation. Mexican families caught wind of it, saw what was happening, realized that they were being used as pawns, and the white establishment's already noted idea of divide and conquer was the talk of the town. As I've been researching and looking at what I've been writing on, Mexican newspapers and black newspapers wrote about desegregation differently. Black newspapers were, yes, finally, thank God. Mexican papers like, wait, ain't no white kids in this shit. And so Mexican families boycotted. And Mexican American Education Council was created to combat this desegregation, this unfair, unconstitutional desegregation plan. And they told parents to boycott it. Don't send your kid to school first week of school. Let's leverage. We'll use the kids to leverage. If they're going to use them to run this awful plan, we can use it to backfire on them, will cost them money with our kids not going to school. So the first 2 to 3 weeks of school, 3,000 kids did not attend HISD schools. It worked. The district caved and said, okay, we'll work on a modified version of this plan. So the Mexican American Education Council said, okay, we'll stop the boycott, but you better have a plan ready to go by next year. And if you don't, we'll do it again, this time for longer. Year later, district said, here's a new plan. And it was the same old plan, just different buildings. So Mexican American Education Council asked families again to boycott, and the same number and more, 6,000 kids, did not attend HISD schools. In both instances, in the 2 years, the Mexican American Education Council created what was called Huelga Education Centers, so strike schools. So you didn't send your kid to an HISD school, you'll send them to a community school. These community schools were at bars, at YMCAs, at churches, wherever they could find space. Raza found space and put up a school. El Rincón Norteño, which is right around Port of Houston Elementary. It is like the Apollo Theater of conjunto / tejano / norteño music in the 70s. If your band was going to make it big, you had to go through El Rincón Norteño on the north side, or by Port of Houston. If you didn't make it through there, whatever, you're down. The owner of the bar, or the owner of the club, the salon, they asked her if they could use her spot during the day. She said, yeah. It's got ice, it's got bathroom, it's got water, it's got Cokes. The kids can come during the day. With the lights on, it looks like a regular old bingo hall. And that's what the kids were learning in for a while. So I'm writing this collection based on the anecdote, the day-to-day lives of the teachers, the students, and the parents of these Huelga schools. Brown Not White, which is the historical landscape logistics of the history by Dr. Guadalupe San Miguel. He talks about all the big overarching history pieces. I'm going for, what did you eat for lunch? Like, what were lesson plans like? How did you get to school? What did you learn? Who were you in class with? How many kids? How did you fundraise to fund these schools? How did you do with transportation? Like all those day-to-day questions. The lived experience of the functionality of this movimiento. What did that really look like? And so that's what this collection hopefully will be. I put a first version of the manuscript together. And I'm adding a few final touches. And so, knock on wood, I hope by December to put the manuscript out and then see who bites. And then we'll go from there. So that's the next project. And then beginning to figure out what my Poet Laureate position plans will be. So
Thank you so much, Lupe.
thank you all for this. When I hear that they want to let teachers carry guns, one, a knuckle pops in my throat the moment a student, an 18-year-old, asks me, Maestro, would you take a bullet for me? And my classroom is an empty house as the words leave his mouth. My solar plexus caves. I say, mijo, I decided that the moment I bubbled in the first multiple choice question in my certification exam 18 years ago. I've been waiting for you to ask this question. I hope I pass this test. 2. Mr. Mendez has a class of 35 students in a temporary building facing the playground. The entrance to the playground is on the far corner. A man in a pea coat enters at the corner with a gun. An announcement breaks over the loudspeaker, quote, Mr. Red is in the building, end quote. What should Mr. Mendez do? A, tell all the children to hold their breaths. Think of air, of floating around in sunlight. B, tell the kids to count the number of times they hear a footstep, a click, a bang, a body. C, tell them, freeze, exactly as you are. Grip this poem a pulse across your temple. D, turn out the lights. Hide the children in the books they picked up that last library visit. 3, and someone says, give the teachers guns. I stumble and shatter into slivers of voice box and wails, mi salón es una casa. Do you want us to speak into an empty house? 4, when time comes, I will put all of you students in my pockets. When one doesn't fit, I will stitch another pocket on, this one dead center on my heart, and hope that if that's the one that aims at me, this is where we will be, and that I'm taken as I am. The gun I want is in the shape of a book, its pages, the only shell casings I ever need, covering my floor.